You did,
That's it in a nutshell.
however, you did, however, just get some pretty good news recently. Can you tell us about that?
Um, well, I mean, our first book is published. I did get hard copies in. I'm not really. I do have a mix of news, so I'm a little bit uh, 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 brain dead here about what you're
That
making
you were
reference
able
to.
to obtain the books.
Yes, we did. We had 100 books printed um, in order to give hard copy legacy editions of this book to the family at no cost to them. So um, we had a fundraising goal of $2,000. We came about $600 short of that goal, which I found a way to squeeze out of my own limited resources to make that happen. We have about 30 books that are available for those that want to get this edition, and I will autograph that. And a $40 gift to us gets basically pays for one and gets you one. So
No.
yes, I am
Well,
excited about that. I don't happen to have one here. I should have brought one up here into this space, but they're well, actually, if I step aside, they are over here. Just a second. Several boxes of these. I don't know if the no the blur is going to take it out, but that's a cop. That's what it looks like. Um,
no,
Appreciate
that
the
it
spreading the
shows
word.
just perfectly. So, hey, I wanted to go on ahead and bring this up. She was able to put it on the in the um, in the chat, and it is this is Healing Warriors, uh, healingwarriors.org program. Sorry, Healing Warriors program.org. Again, community pay it forward mission partner. Look, this is one of the kindest ladies. Guys, I can't wait until you gentlemen meet her. I mean, she has got the biggest heart, and she is one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. I mean, even my wife sits there and looks at her when we're working, and she goes, God, does she stop? And for my wife to say that about anybody is amazing because my wife never stops. So, but please visit healingwarriorsprogram.org. Take a look at what they're doing. You know what? Regardless, if you're outside of northern Colorado, a donation is is needed because this is non-narcotic and this helps veterans heal. And that's what this is all about. Once again, we are going to, well, I'm just going to say it. We're going to have Healing Warriors as one of our missions as well. I have a love for Janet and this program just because they do some fantastic things, and we will be adding them to the program as well. So they will be one of the 10 nonprofits that we are raising money for. So, all right, guys, are you ready for this? I'd like to introduce you both to Mr. Timothy Mabry. He is a veteran of the U.S. Navy and a firefighter. How you doing, Timothy? I caught you in mid stretch there. Look at that. I was
Yes,
waiting.
sir.
I was waiting for you to do that. You know.
Like, wait, perfect timing. Well, thanks for having me here, Zach. It's an honor.
Hey, your story, Timothy. You and I had a discussion the other day, and your story is a I don't want to say it's a tragic story, but it's a very, very uh, concerning story that could have and was very close to turning tragic. But what you've done with it is something like what Patrick, what Dennis, what, we've turned something that's tragic into something that is helping others. And why don't you start by telling us a little bit, Timothy, about your story?
Well, definitely. As Zach kind of alluded to, my story had some ups and downs. And it's all started when I was in the Navy back in 2011 to 2013. That's how long I served in. And during that time period, I got thrusted into a department where there they were doing some really messed up stuff. One, my chief, who was in E7, would beat me with tools if I didn't know what they were. He would take me down to the lower depths of the ship and ask me, "What is this tool?" He specifically would hold up wrenches and other large objects, and I didn't know the answer to them. So he would take those and beat me with it. At the same time, that in that department, one of the E6s, my leading petty officer, was saying things like he was going to kill me and do other items to me. And he actually tried on multiple occasions to do those. And it put me in a really bad state to where I ended up having to speak out against it. I was faced with the moment of, do I either do this as an open investigation or a closed one? And I decided, you know what? I'm going to be the leader. I'm going to take the brunt of it, and I'm going to speak up and say, no, he's going to have to pay for what he's doing, because if not, somebody else is going to have this problem. And because I spoke up, I ended up getting discharged. I was officially told it was needs of the Navy and failure to adapt to military life. That's officially how I was discharged. At 1 year, 9 months, and 13 days in, I was pretty devastated because I was discharged that quick. Within 72 hours of being told you're gonna get discharged, I was home. I was back home in Texas within 72 hours of that notification. And I went right into the fire service, went to the academy. I spent time in, but the trauma that I went through in the Navy, I just pushed it down. I didn't have support. I didn't have ways to deal with it. And for 9 years, I just I pushed it down so far that I had forgotten about it. And then while in the fire department, I was seeing things that very few people ever get to see. I was seeing people born, and I saw more death than anything. And no matter what you think, you're strong, but there's always a breaking point. Trauma does have a point to where it does creep up on you. And unfortunately, we're not taught and told how to deal with that trauma effectively. And if you don't know, it builds and it builds and it just creates such a problem. And that's what happened for me. Last year, I was going through my re-upping of my VA claim, and it brought back that old trauma. And I had just shut down. I got severely depressed. I was anxious. I was withdrawing from everything. And I just didn't know what to do, because I went through with the Navy speaking up and getting discharged. And in the fire department, I didn't really want to speak up because I felt judged and I just didn't know what to do. And I had a cry for help, but that cry for help got ignored. And it was because of that I reached a point where I actually attempted to take my own life. I found myself sitting on the edge of my bed and then putting the gun to my head and pulling a trigger. A few days before that, I called the VA. It's like, hey, I need some help. I need some help now. And they just said, 2 or 3 months and you'll get help. Like, okay, we'll see.
You know, Timothy, this is the hardest part for me to handle on this. You had a really huge life-changing experience going on at that same time.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about it?
Yes. Most people, when they have trauma, it's just 1, 2, or 3 things happen. And that time, I got in trouble at work because I was withdrawn. I was from a great employee and a boss to I just didn't care. I was failing my crew. I got into a car accident, and my wife was 9 months pregnant in that moment. So I was in extreme pain, mentally and physically and emotionally. And the only solution that I could think of was to end it all. But in that moment of desperation, I had a bit of realization of like, what am I about to do? I'm literally about to end it all. And thoughts of, or memories of seeing people pass away from suicide and the effects that it had on their family came back into my mind. I call that a God moment. I was like, you know what? Not today, Satan, ever or ever. I'm never going to do this again because I choose to live for my family. And it's in that moment that I started my healing journey.
Your wife was also 9 months pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there any investigation, or do you know if there was ever any investigation in the Navy, or is that still something that's all shut down and shut up?
It was kind of both. So there was an NCIS investigation on it, and they said the only thing that they could prove was there was hazing, but some of the other charges, like the sexual harassment and assault, they could not prove that because it was all hearsay. It was all my word against that other guy's, and they took his word on it. So there's like there's no proof that it happened. So it just kind of ended. And during the investigation, while it was still ongoing, I was told by our master chief at the end of this investigation, I was going to get discharged. Like, what? I bring up a problem that's happening in your organization, and you're saying I'm going to get discharged because I can't adapt to military life? That's not military life. Someone trying to threaten to kill you and do other things, and they actually attempt it. That's not military life. And he ended up getting discharged only because he got into a fight after the investigation was done. And that fight happened in front of the Master Chief's office by the medical bay, too. There was a whole bunch of people who witnessed that fight. And because of that fight, he got bumped down to an E2. Being over 15 years in, he got discharged because of that. I don't think he got a dishonorable discharge. I don't truly know, but that's what ended up happening to him.
When you were in the fire service, you went to your battalion chief and asked him, why didn't you support me? He had a very, very unique answer.
Yeah, because he was one of the people that had to cry out for help. And his answer, when I asked him, what happened in that moment when you didn't answer my cry for help? He's like, I didn't help you because I couldn't help myself. I didn't know how to overcome my own problems and didn't feel worthy, so I didn't help you.
It's just, it's astonishing. Patrick?
I think it's I think in a way with you said your fire chief battalion, right?
Yeah, battalion chief, yes.
Your battalion chief, right? Like it might sound kind of crazy, but that's probably like the best thing that he could have done at that moment. Because a lot of times, if you can't help yourself, man, like you'll end up drowning the people that you're trying to help. That's from just personal experience, man. Like if you don't have yourself right, man, there is sometimes no way you can help someone else because it's just like being inside of it's just like being in like say you're in a pool and being a Navy. I was in Navy too, actually. And then I understand the ship life. Uh, it's there's a lot of unspoken things, at Don't Ask, Don't Tell in a whole lot of different areas, right? So empathize with you, man, in that aspect of things. But it's like being in a pool, right? Where if you're drowning and then I don't know how to swim, and there's all kind of reasons for that. Number one, like when I first went to boot camp, you see all the black brothers, we just sank to the bottom, you know. So you get in there, yeah. Let's be real. You don't want that brother trying to come help you try to swim, right? You don't. That's the last thing you need. And and um and so like in that concept, it's like there's just grace given to the battalion chief, because like that's the worst thing. That's the worst place to be is when you're drowning yourself. and like a lot of people don't understand, like, you know, especially people in leadership, like they're usually the worst hurting, um, because they have to carry everybody else's pain and sufferings, right? And then now with the military portion of it, man, like, I'm not going to say a whole lot to it, but I understand the stuff that you're talking about more than you know. You know, I was on the ship I was on the Roosevelt during 9/11, and it was one of the longest cruise in U.S. history, and it there was some savagery going on out there, man. You know, there just was, man. It happens, and but not to excuse it or anything like that, man. Just my heart goes out to you, man, because even in telling your story now, you can just still see like a lot of the hurt and pain from those things, like still. And not saying you don't have victory over it, anything like that, but you can just still see like the remembrance of the moment, right, or the remembrance of the things that you had went through. And I just want to say to you, man, just like it's kind of inspiring, man, how you had that moment where you had that come to God moment where it was just like you saw the effect of everything that was getting ready to happen because of what you experienced. You know what I mean? Like, like almost like the fire department saved you from taking your life in some kind of weird way by going through all that. When I got out the military, I went into EMT services, and nobody tells you that like like it's gonna be crazy out there, man. And it's mind blowing the stuff that people do to people, or just the stuff that happens to people, and stuff like that out there. It just, you can't even begin to rationalize half the stuff that happens out there. And I couldn't stick with it, man. But like, it's just really cool, man, how that changed your life. When you say you had that come to God moment, can you explain a little bit more in a little bit detail, like how that actually played out in your life in that moment? Where, like, what were you thinking? Um, um, what was the key things, not just that you want to live, but like what were the key things that were just like, hey, this is what's going to affect things? Because you're talking about you had a 9-month pregnant wife, um, um, and so much to that you were battling with at that same time. Can you just go through a little bit more about the experience of getting to that place, and then what that click and that change coming out of that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, definitely. So in that moment, I was feeling lost, desperate, and just uncertain. There's a lot of variables that I didn't have answers to. And then when I remembered seeing the negative effects of a suicide, where dad told his kids, he had 4 kids, and he told them, Mommy's not coming home today. Mommy's no longer with us. That moment popped into my mind because I saw the look on the dad's face, and I saw the kids. They were from, I think, 8 to about 2. That was the age spread. And I could see the different kids having a different reaction to it. The 8-year-old understood. The 2-year-old didn't and was just eating chicken.
Mm,
And I remember in my mind thinking, I'm about to inflict that type of pain onto my wife, onto my daughter. What legacy am I going to leave behind? And is that really what I want? The other thing that kept me from pulling that trigger further was a random question: is, if I end it today, am I going to hell? Because in
mm,
Christianity, at least the churches I've been into, they've gone back and forth with saying, if you kill yourself, you go to hell. Some don't. Also, just like in Beetlejuice, I know it's a horrible reference, but in Beetlejuice, they said there's a special place in the afterlife for people who kill themselves, indentured servitude. So those things, coupled with what I want my future to be, I was like, is it worth really ending it all now? If I view life as miserable and sucky, and I go to hell for eternity, which one's worse? So there was a little bit of rationalization to keep me pursuing to get better and to say, what I don't know what it's going to take to get better, to be happy and find my light again and to get back on track. But I'm going to do whatever it takes because I choose to live instead of dying. Because I saw that the path that I was on led me to that point. And I'm like, I'm not going to get back to this because it was a vicious cycle. As Janet had said in the comments, traumatic events are like weights on a scale. And the repeat exposure places that weight on a person and cause a higher risk for it to happen again. All the trauma from the military, the first responder, the trauma was going to keep happening.
Yeah.
There was zero doubt in my mind that I'm going to have more trauma, but how am I going to deal with it effectively and to combat it? And so that's where I started to search how to get better, how to retrain my brain. And I found some really good resources to help with that.
Minister Schroeder.
Well, Timothy, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I just want to let you know that you've got a group of folks here that really do understand what you're going through. Now, I spent 24 years in the Army. I came in out of ROTC, so I was one of those brand new butter bar lieutenants into the Army. But I actually had some experience in high school with the Navy because my father was Blue Water Navy, and I was in the Sea Cadets in high school and took a cruise from Seattle to Anchorage and back aboard a destroyer escort one summer. So I have a little tiny bit of knowledge of what ship life is like. Certainly never experienced anything like what you went through. And I just want to say that I'm sorry that the military justice system let you down like it did. I know when I was a junior officer and was responsible for soldiers, that the hardest things that I had to do involved Article 15s and others when there was no physical evidence. And so it just tortured me to have to make a decision that I knew was going to impact the soldiers under me, no matter what I decided, no matter what. And so I have great empathy for you for that. But while I was in high school, I also, and I think I was your first guest on this topic, wasn't I, Zach, here when I talked about the fact that at 17, I had my father's pistol to my head with a finger on the trigger. And it was a thought that came into my head, similar to as you described, that asked, because I wasn't upset with my parents. I mean, I was upset about my life, about a lot of other stupid things in retrospect. But the thought came in and said, it was a question. It said, how are your parents going to feel when they come home and find their oldest son with his brains blown out all over their bedroom? And that was all it took, really, because I wasn't upset with them. I knew it would upset them. And at that point, I really didn't have a good concept of how traumatic that would be to them, but I knew it would be bad. So I'm thankful that, so I have an understanding, and I think we all do. I guess my question would be, you kind of hinted at this a little bit about the resources. So, given these experiences that you've gone through and this trauma and this brush with death through suicide, what resources did you find that were helpful for you? And I'm assuming you have some things that you can bring to other people to be helpful to them, both as individuals and possibly as organizations.
Yes, that's correct. I do. So the first thing that I ended up finding was a buddy of mine had me go to a conference. Well, I met him there, and I heard David Goggins speak. And I just remember hearing Goggins talk. I was sitting on the outside of the stadium because it was up in Arlington, Texas. And I was standing in Frisco. I was standing on the outside of the stadium. I just heard Goggins speaking and how he was retrained his brain from where he was to get to that point. So I looked up Goggins on Amazon Podcast, and I came across this one podcast series called Moonshots.io. And it's an Australian podcast, and they pull from some of the greatest people, and they talk about them in an hour, and they digress different topics. And the biggest ones that I remember were happiness, for rewiring, and overcoming. And that's what really started to help me reshape my inputs. That, and actually, after that attempt, I called the VA back up and said, I need help now. And they were like, again, we'll see you in a couple of months. I was like, you don't understand. I was about to end it. Like right now, I was literally about to end this and I need help. And then I got the help. They're like, okay. So they started to give me to the CPT, cognitive processing therapy, and going over stuck points. Between the podcast, the stuck points, and then getting plugged back into church, it started to have a better benefit in my life. And what I've done is I've actually created, and I'm starting to deploy on January 1st, a 30-day program that I'm created. And it's to specifically help with retraining the brain. See, what I found in the stuck points, like the military or the VA had, was you came in for one day, for 1 hour, and you talked about your issues. Ooh, big deal. That actually made it worse. For anybody who's ever been through therapy, or especially who's been through a lot of trauma, you know, that 1 hour doesn't make anything better. It brings up all the demons, and the demons are like, hi, we're here to play. They're like, surprise, mother.
Yeah.
And then you're back like, I don't know what to do. I want to get out of this, but I don't like these demons. So I would go from therapy session to therapy session, just like, I don't know how to get over this. What do I do? So I sat down a few months ago and I just figured, what helped me? What worked? What didn't work? And how do I retrain and rewire my brain? Because what I had found was that my thought process and what I had said brought me to that point of desperation. See, I was so focused on the past and the possible future that I wasn't focused in the exact moment. I didn't see the beauty of I was alive. I had a great job. I had a loving wife and about to be a newborn baby within a month. I didn't focus on that. I was looking at all the bad. So I started to retrain my brain for gratitude.
Yes.
Everyone asks, what's the secret to happiness? The pursuit of happiness, it's gratitude. There have been studies that show gratitude is the overall secret to happiness, because gratitude means you're thankful for what you have, is that initial rewiring. So instead of saying things like, oh God, why me? I'm like, you know what? Why not me? I'm thankful to be alive. You know what? I'm thankful for these opportunities. These demons, the things that I've gone through, I'm thankful for them. I'm happy they happened. Why? Because it gives me equipment and tools to help somebody else who is in that same spot. See, the storm that we're going through today means we're strong enough to in the future to pull somebody else out of that exact same storm. So those storms that I've gone through, I can help somebody else out of those places, how to retrain their brain. And I put into a 30-day class to actually show how to do that, because it's a major benefit. It's what I wish I had in that meantime. If the VA would have said, here's your therapy, but here's what else to do in the meantime, that would have been a major benefit to me. Instead of saying, oh God, what do I do now? To, okay, this sucks, but let me go a little bit further.
You know, one of the things that I always think about is when, something bad happens, we all have this tendency to go, oh my God, it's happening right now. How can this bad thing be happening right now? guess what? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. No matter when it happens, it's happening. So it makes it really difficult. Is that part of the acceptance that you're trying to get across? Letting people know, look, it's okay to have problems. We all have problems.
Yeah, and it's and not just that, but it's okay to recognize them and to say something about it. See, what part of my issue was is in the fire service, if you had brought up problems, you were seen as weak.
Mhm.
Oh, you're struggling with mental health. Oh, that call bothered you? Wuss, loser. Those were always talked about. I remember higher up officers who'd been in for 20, 30 years would talk bad about somebody who had left because of some of the traumatic stuff that they'd seen. It wasn't accepted that, hey, you know what? That may have been their breaking point. So thinking of that, it causes you to bunch it up for a long period of time. So it's, hey, you know what? You have a struggle. You have an issue. One, embrace the suck. Two, switch from the victim mentality to the victor, saying, you know what? This happened to me. Nah, I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm actually going to choose to take that and turn it for good. The Bible says what Satan meant for evil, God will turn for good. And we have to take that mentality of saying, life just gave me lemons. All right, I'm going to make lemonade out of it. It's that reshaping is what helped me overcome. It's still what helps me push forward in those days where, like, am I really good enough? Am I having a purpose? Is things going to happen? Like, no, it will happen. It's going to be benefit. I am going to push forward no matter what.
Everyone suffering also needs to realize they deserve help. Many, many times I hear someone else needs it more than I do. Everyone deserves help. That's such a beautiful comment by Janet. And it's so true because, you know, and the other thing is that, you know what? I've got this. It's under control. It's under control until it's not. But if you keep piling stuff up and piling stuff up and piling stuff up, here pretty soon you don't have it anymore. And if you try to take and you get out in front of it, it is so much easier to do just that, get out in front of it, than trying to sit there and wait. You know, it's like, oh, I'm not in that dire of need. You know, okay, that's fine. You know, maybe right now you just need help getting your child to school. Might as well ask for it now, because what happens when, okay, now I need to get my kid to school and I need somebody to help make the lunch. And then I need someone to help cut my grass. And then, you know, things go like this and you start getting lost. And, you know, people get so used to hearing you say, hey, he's got it. He's under control. Everything's cool. And they tune out. And you can't let that happen, because this is too serious.
It's serious, and it can be deadly. I mean, I made a comment in a sidebar thing there that I listen to audiobooks all the time, and when I just recently finished up was published in 2005 called Deep Survival by an author named Lawrence Gonzalez. And what struck me about that book and this conversation was it was more of an academic book than I thought it was going to be, but they did a lot of studies, or he did, with and pulled stuff together from lots of sources. But the bottom line is that the people who survived airplane accidents, train wrecks, being lost in the wilderness, lost at sea, things like, you know, all sorts of things. Some commonalities were being right here, right now, not bemoaning the past, not why me, not, we'll never get rescued, but right here, right now, and basically embracing whatever the situation was. So, you know, and I heard that, or echoes very similar to that, what you were saying, Timothy, and that I think that is a very important mindset for people to have, regardless, because you never know when the world that we are comfortable living in is going to change suddenly. Uh, I remember one of the stories they were talking about was this couple who was driving cross country and wound up in a mountain pass in like rural Utah, and they were not at all prepared for the snow that they found themselves in. So you just never know. You never know when this is going to happen. And I think that having a mindset that is much more present, much more grateful, as you were talking about, and less, bemoaning our the things that we wish or think we should have. The more accepting of God and His presence and His action in our lives, the better we're going to be in all sorts of situations, including situations that are life or death.
Yeah, I really do. I love this this interaction with everyone. I want to thank everyone for your comments and everything. And please, we've got a little more time. Timothy, tell us about your company alone. We'll go on to the stuff for. Okay, this is kind of funny. Yeah, you got a friend, Patrick. So
another Patrick Myers out there.
Like, who is that guy? I don't know.
Yeah. So, but yeah, tell us a little bit about your company, and then we'll move on to your organization.
Yeah, definitely. So the company I've created is called Lead Through Fire. And the reason for Lead Through Fire is because I can lead you through the fire of your mind, your life, and in your business, and to teach you how to do the exact same for other people. And that was founded because I started to realize, being a fire officer, one big thing that I was able to do and got good at was teaching other firefighters how to go into a fire and pull the people out. And I started to realize, that's what's missing in most of the leadership training out there. Most of it teaches you how to charge in, but majority doesn't say how to pull back, when you do have the retreat or after the fire, after the situation, what do you do in the calm? Because in those moments, it's when the demons come back. And that's when you got to charge in a different aspect. And that's where I created that program to do so, because you're not alone. And if you don't know what you don't know. See, everyone talks about PTSD, but very few people know what PTG is, post-traumatic growth. See, post-traumatic growth only occurs when you know what to do and how to actually overcome when you're stressed. Same with pre-planning in the fire service. You have a plan before you go in. So this way, whenever you get the situation, you have a rough idea on how to mitigate it. So I created this so that it gives leaders the tools and the resources to not only pull out their business from failing, to improve company culture, but to improve their own mental states. And that's a big thing that's missing right now, and what we need, especially since, I don't know if most people are paying attention to the market, what's happening. We're in a downturn. Alarm bells are saying that we're have a high chance of entering a recession in 2024. Companies are already starting to tighten their belts. Just like in COVID, people had a major mental health crisis. There was a lot of help that was needed. And this company is designed to help against that, to help give the leaders the tools to recognize those situations so that when the cry for help happens, they are equipped. They know what to do. And if not, say, here's a resource that'll better help you, instead of just, oh, okay, and letting it slide.
Yeah. Look, it's just, once again, this is something that if you wait too late again, you're damaging you're damaging your footprint. Basically, you're damaging your business. And getting out in front of things is so important. And just remember, even if it's a small ask, let people chip away at it a little bit. Make sure that your mindset is calm because you know what, when you start seeing things like your car getting repossessed, and you start seeing those disconnect notices on your door, and you start seeing all these other things that happen, and you're at this point in time, you're like going, well, I need this money by, in 3 hours or I'm out. There's very little people can do. If you get ahead of it and we start working from the beginning, there's a chance that we can do something. So it looks like you've got another wedding or message here there, Patrick. I'm not bringing any figgy pudding, brother. That's
I don't even know. I don't even know what that is, man. I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if it sounds good, man.
yeah, it definitely doesn't sound that great to me, and
Try it,
especially
man.
not
Just
right
to
now.
say-
So,
just to say I-
but-
just to say I do, man.
all right,
Um,
going ahead.
I have just something for Timothy. Do you like to be called Tim or Timothy, man?
Either one, I'm not too picky about it.
All right. It's just I just really love the faith aspect of things, that where God just takes you from one place to another, right? A lot of times, like these are things that we don't know how big of a deal that actually really is, and and especially when you are in those places looking at eternity and you're trying to figure out what next, and then like you're trying to figure out those things. It's just it's amazing. Like um, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can believe whatever you want to believe and stuff like that, and I don't harp on those things, but I just know like the power that God had in my life when I started to actually open my eyes to the fact that He came after me and delivered me, and even when I was like I don't know you, I don't want to know you, I don't, what I mean? Like He came after me anyway, and that was just so crazy to me about that. One of the things I thought was pretty cool, man, is just when you were talking about the aspect of where you just didn't, like, when the therapy started happening, you didn't have the tools. That was one of the craziest things that happened to me. I felt like I was going to therapy, and like you said, the demons are just popping out, and you're just like, yo, like, and then you come back home and like you're more depressed and anxious, and like suicide even more real than it is when it was before you was actually gonna take your life, right? And one thing I would like to say also is, like, a lot of times we're always talking about the person getting help, right? And also, one thing I want to say is, for us as people that are around the other people around us, to be more aware of the people around us, and paying attention, because in general, as human beings, we are very self-absorbed, and they might not be saying it, but most of the people around you that are going through these things, they're saying it very loud in their actions and in the different things that they need help. But like, we are always of the mindset, well, if he didn't ask, and I don't need the help. And that's not necessarily true. Like, if you see somebody like in a what you call those things, quicksand. You see somebody in quicksand, you don't need that person to go, hey, I'm in quicksand, can you please help me? You could be walking by that and be like, that dude needs a freaking rope. Let me toss it to him and then pull him and then help pull him out. And I think that's sometimes the place where we're afraid to jump into, or because there's a lot of implications sometimes of throwing a rope. You know what I mean? It is. That's just a part of it. That's part of the human experience. Also, is um, are we going to be that person to pay attention to the things that's happening around us? Because it's a two-way thing, man. I can't tell you how many times where um, even if there are signs that you don't know, there's something about even asking. Like, they might not have nothing going on with them, but be like, hey man, are you really okay? Is there any way I can help you? Or hey, I don't know what, hey lady, hey lady, what are you going through? How can I help? Like, is there something going on where I can just sometimes asking the question can open the door to like something deeper. And a lot of times we're afraid to ask that question. And so that's like the both of the things that I would like to actually add to what you're saying, because there's so much power in asking. But like I remember being in that place and I didn't know how to ask. I didn't know I didn't even actually know I was going through all the things I was going through at the time. I didn't even know I was depressed. I didn't know I had anxiety. I didn't know I had I was having panic attacks. I just know my world was just being flipped upside down, and that was all that I knew. And then it was just darkness. It was complete darkness that I was going into, and I couldn't understand why nobody around me understood that I was in darkness. That was really the reality of the situation I was in. And from the things that you were saying, it seems the same that was happening to you, my brother. Like it just like everything was happening and you just don't even know it. And now you're in this position, but then God delivered you in that moment and the light came on, and now he's brought you through this place to actually help others. But those are just some things that for the people out there, um, listening to Timothy's story and just the turnaround of it, like the other aspect that you can personally do and be paying attention to right now.
Yeah. Going ahead, Timothy.
You're right. The questions are very important. Like one thing that I did is I played experiments on people in my healing journey last year. I would actually, like when I was starting going to church, people ask, "How are you doing today?" I was like, "Not good at all, horrible," just to see what people would do. And I found that most people wouldn't even engage that in church, the place that you think that you're going to get help and there's more people to help you. Even at that, most didn't know how to engage it. But one thing that I learned is when you hear those questions, like, how you doing? Okay, I could do better. Living the dream, another day, another dollar. Those are all very silent cries for help. They're not the big help me now, I'm going to end it. No, that's saying that there's something wrong and that's the brain subtle way of saying I need help, but I don't really know how to ask for it because I'm afraid of being judged. And once you're like mentally aware and you're in tune with yourself, and now you can start paying attention to other people, you pick up on that. Like there was a guy who I knew was having some major issues, and he said that he was like, "Man, I'm doing all right." Like, all right, reading in between the lines, I know something's not right. Like something is very wrong. What's happening? Then he started to open up. See, when those cries for help or those little comments happen, you start asking those questions. It shows people that you care. And then if you throw in your own little vulnerability with it of, yeah, I've been there. I actually try to end it. I've been depressed too. Oh, really? Yeah. It's mixing that vulnerability with creating a safe place that institutes creates that healing. And that's one thing that I teach is how to have those questions that have a deeper understanding and how to foster a good culture, because that's what's really needed is how to have leaders who truly care and understand. But they first have to care and understand themselves before they can help anybody else. If you can't help yourself, you're not going to help anybody else effectively. You can try all you want, but promise you, it's not as effective. Been there.
Well,
You know-
and the people who say, I mean, from the standpoint of myself, when people ask, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. It's like, because I say that because a couple of things. Number one, I don't have time to get into the full depth of what's really going on in this situation. Or number two, I really don't think this person cares. I really don't. I just don't trust them. And so I'm going to give them the pat answer to kind of end the conversation and move on. So, but and it's because most, as you're describing, most people in church and different organizations that I've been part of, unless you are consciously and specifically making a choice to be available and present and willing to help somebody in the situation that they're in, most people are just not going to do it. They're not trustworthy for that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that people have to do is remember if you can't answer the question, if somebody says, look, I'm messed up, if you can't answer that question, if you can't sit there and listen to the statement, if you can't sit there and try to, listen through, first off, listen, not talk, listen through, then don't ask the question. Okay. Don't ask a question thinking that you're going to get a rosy red answer. Okay. This isn't, it's not like that. You got to make sure that you are able to handle what's going to be said. And there's a huge possibility it's going to be ugly, very ugly. And if you can't answer that question, you could do even more damage. So, uh-oh. Well, somebody's dancing. So,
Can I say something to that real quick?
Yep.
To add on to what you're saying, because that's very, very important also, if you don't think you can, like 9 times out of 10, somebody around you that could.
Mm-hmm.
And so like for instance, like that person that's in the quicksand, you might be the person walking around there. You ain't got no arms, so it's going to be pretty hard to pull that person out of the quicksand, right? But you got 2 legs to go to the next person and a mouth to be like, hey, there's a guy back there in the quicksand pit that the quicksand pit that needs somebody to pull him out. You got 2 arms and good legs, man. Can you go help him? Like that's the power of community, and being aware, and that's how we all help each other, because that's I think that's a very, very important thing too, because like that is dangerous if you can't, you don't have the capacity. Like I know I don't have the capacity for certain things, so I don't engage in those things. But like say for instance, brother, you're the guy that teaches the mindset thing or whatever. But then hey, I know this guy Tim, right? He's got that next step that what you need to that you can go to this guy and maybe he can help you with that. And if you don't know, there's probably somebody else that that you can take them to this other level where they might need like really, really deep counseling or something like that. But that's the power of community and us connecting together and seeing more than just ourselves.
And once again, remember that not every solution works for everyone. So just because the solution worked for you does not mean it's going to work for this person you're talking to. You got to remember that, because if you try to push something on somebody that makes them uncomfortable, look, they're already uncomfortable. There is already things going on in their head. So let's make sure that you can say, hey, look, we listened to this show the other day. They had a great guest, Timothy Mabry. I got his phone number off the website. Do you want to try to call him, see if maybe this is something for you? Do it that way, but don't tell him, look, you need to call Timothy. He's going to help you. That's putting undue stress on everyone. And that's telling somebody that exactly what they're going through. And that's just dangerous. So, well, Dennis, we're at the end of the show. We went over again. Look at this.
Yes, we do. And it happens because you attract such fantastic guests. I mean, I feel like this conversation really has just started. So, Timothy, I want to thank you for coming on. I don't want to rehash what I said before, but I know that the trauma experience was unjust and terrible. And I'm glad that you had that revelation in the moment when you were about to take your life. And I'm thankful for the path that you're on and the resources you have. And I hope that individuals and companies out there will take advantage of it.
Patrick?
Brother, your story is very, very encouraging. I see the path that you went in your life, man. And you went through a lot of terrible things. But like how you were saying before, that gratitude portion, that's the part I want to give to you also. It says, even though you went through those things and they were terrible, and I'm sorry that you went through those things, I'm actually very, very grateful that you did, because now there's one more person out there to fight for the other people. And so, and actively seeking ways to actually do that. And so, just blessings upon you, man, and upon your journey. And Um, keep God first in everything you do, man. He'll see you
Um,
through.
um, we are very lucky that Timothy is going to be joining us on February 22nd. He's going to be talking a little bit more about this. And hopefully we're going to get a little bit deeper into his program, which we definitely need to do that. And you're invited on whenever you would like to come on and talk about it. Before we let you go, okay? Is there anything that you need from people out there that can help you out?
Definitely. So the biggest thing that I'm needing is to get on more platforms to spread this message, and for companies who are looking to improve their culture and their leadership team. That's a really big thing. And as I alluded to before, we're coming up to a time where people are going to need more help.
Yep.
So if you need some help, if you're a leader who wants to have will become a better leader and connect better with individuals, I'm going to put a link in the chat to a free guide that I created on my website. So it's a downloadable document, and that'll give you some help. And if you want additional resources or want me to speak at your event, just in the comments or when you download the guide, just put that additional field, and I'll be there for it.
And I'm sorry about this. I'm little behind here, but if you want that free guide, Timothy is offering every listener to Footprints Forward a copy of the free guide. Let me get the opens in a new tab. I don't know why all of a sudden it started doing that, but simply go to this link and you can get this free guide. I'm also going to put it into the comments. And so you can take and look for it. Timothy, I'm going to introduce you to, both of these fine gentlemen, but I'm also going to introduce you to Janet. I see what she is doing here in Colorado and what you're doing as something that there could be amazing things working together. And I really do see that going well. So, but you've got it in the chat. You've got it right here in the on the screen. So please get this free guide, check it out, and be there if somebody needs you. Okay, but make sure you're there. Put this thing down. Open these things. Shut the mouth. If you can't do it, don't ask, because it could be the difference between life and death. Timothy, thank you so much, brother, for coming on. Oh, the link isn't working. Oh, damn. I will send it to you, Janet. But I will send it to you. But Timothy, thank you so much.
Oh, since I think it might be because it's all combined leaders guide opens. It'll be just leaders guide.
Yeah. I will send it to you, Janet, as soon as this is over. So just we can try to do it. We can try to work this. And on the website, communitypayitforward.us, go to Footprints Forward, and you will find that link as well. We will maybe even add. We'll talk to Timothy about adding it to the page so people can have it when they need it. But Timothy, brother, through everything you went through all the struggles and all the glory, congratulations on the child. Welcome to the wonderful thing of fatherhood, man. And thank God you're still there for that child. Thank God you're still there for your wife. And thank God you're still here to help others. Mr. Schroeder, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for joining us again. Look, the show is doing something, and I'm very, very proud of you guys for helping it get somewhere. Patrick, brother man, thank you. Thank you. As always, awesome show. Hey, everybody. Once again, the QR code in the corner next to Mr. Dennis Schroeder, the Xbox, I guess, instead of the tic-tac-toe thing, where you need that X. Go on ahead and scan that beautiful little QR code and help us by donating $20 or helping us find families who need help. Do you need help? And I don't care if you're in Colorado. I don't care if you're in Tennessee. I don't care where you're at. Yep, right there. Fill it out. Hopefully we can find somebody to help you out. If you can help us, donate $20. If you would rather look on your own community page and find someone yourself, please do that. Just make sure you're helping someone, because remember, if you're not helping someone, you're hurting everyone. No one needs to go it alone when we all come together. My name is Zach Clayton, Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. Folks, love somebody out there because somebody out here loves you. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week. Maybe.